Hello and welcome to the Sidekick podcast with me, Tank. Our podcast enables sport martial artists from all over the world to get to know some of the top athletes in our sport from both the past and the present. We aim to bring their martial arts journey to light and find out what makes them so prominent in our sport, what inspires them, and what training regimes they go through leading up to big tournaments. As always, if you enjoy our podcast, then let us know through one of our social media pages. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you're listening on YouTube, hit the notifications bell and you'll get notified every time we drop a podcast. Our guest on episode 5 is Alex Barrowman. Alex is one of the best fighters in the world today. He has won countless national and world titles and is a 3-time winner at the Irish Open. We are very proud to present Alex Barrowman Jr. Thanks for coming on, Alex. I know that you're busy and whatever else with your schools, and thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be part of it.
So we have had a little talk just beforehand, and we've discussed that this is our first Zoom interview, so it's just going to take a little bit of getting used to, I suppose. Hopefully, by the time we do our next one, we'll be able to lock down and we can travel to wherever and start doing them all again.
Yes, mate. Yeah, we'll just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Trial, see how it goes.
So, I think it's well known that your dad's heavily involved in martial arts, and I presume, we know that that's how you got involved and started in martial arts. But can you sort of pinpoint the time that you went?
I started about 3 years old. Sort of in and out the classes as a 3-year-old. You can't really do a lot, so you're in 20 minutes, few sit-ups, few push-ups, punch some pads, do a bit of sparring, and sort of in and out. And that grew as I got older, obviously, into getting more involved and doing more as coaching, sparring, teaching, all the rest of it. To as I got to around 16, 17, taking classes myself and getting a lot more heavily involved. But I enjoyed it all the way through.
Can you remember your first grade?
Yeah, white sash. So we used to grades on a Saturday afternoon at a place called the Sea Cadets, which is where we used to train. It was a cadet hut, basically. And there's a lot of history in there, and trained there all through the 80s and that. And then around about I think it was 1995 maybe, or something like that, I took my white sash. And it was daunting, because it was all in Chinese in them days. You didn't have any English. So you had to remember, 3 or 4 years old, everything in Chinese. So it was really hard.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a go at that, and I think I can remember a couple, but not many. Do you still use any Chinese expressions when you're teaching now?
I don't personally, because I run the kickboxing side of it. But I graded up to brown sash in Lao Gar Kung Fu, which is what we were originally. And
that was
BCKA,
your dad's original.
That was the original style. And we still do practice Kung Fu as a school. We do a lot of it, and I still teach it. I'm mainly involved in running the kickboxing side now, which is all done in English, as we are English.
Are there any plans to sort of go on towards your black sash, or?
Yeah, it's been a big ambition of mine, but as I took more on with the fighting and more on with traveling and competing, and people relying on me to teach, that slowed down. I would love to take my black sash, but I was always held back at a younger age because I wasn't good enough to do it. Because my dad expected a high standard of black sash, and he wouldn't let you go because you had to go and grade in Birmingham in them days with Master Yao, Jeremy Yao at the time, and so you were sent sort of externally to do your black sash. And my dad wouldn't want to send someone that was going to fail, so you had to be of a level. It was mainly adults, really. You didn't get many children black sashes in them days, really. It was sort of that's a new thing as such.
So how was the transition between Kung Fu and sort of freestyle kickboxing or sport karate?
It was really natural, because I think obviously the Lao Gar team of the days was really good, and the style sort of naturally progressed onto that. And there was a tournament circuit for Lao Gar in them days, especially down south where we're from. And I always remember my first notable win was the Lao Gar Nationals in the Pee-wee section. And that felt amazing to win that. I was like, at the time, it was to win the Lao Gar Nationals was something to be proud of. And that was my first notable win as a kid. Is that when you started seeing yourself winning persistently? No, it was maybe 3 or 4 years after that, really. that I started to win consistently. But that was the first one for me that, it was but that natural progression from the kung fu, that style, pushed us on to the WKA circuit and that, and then the kickboxing sort of kicked off big time really after that. It was an easy progression really.
Okay, so you have transitioned over to the kickboxing now, and you're starting to win nationals and local competitions and whatever else. At what point did you start getting into, I presume it was England teams with yourself? I don't think you're old enough either to remember the Great Britain teams.
Around about 2001, my dad was contacted about having the WKA manager's job for the points fighting side.
Okay.
So around 2001, we got involved with the WKA. We'd always gone up for the FSK once a year as a team. We'd always gone up to Manchester for that. But then we got involved in the qualifiers, which were around February time. Yeah. And in them days, that tournament was massive. You know yourself. Yeah. It was huge. Probably I'd say it was the best tournament in the UK at the time.
I think so, by a long way, yeah.
Yeah, she had a lot of big club teams, association teams, where they were taking 20, 30, 40 fighters strong. And if you were qualifying, then you were a decent standard of fighter, really.
Yeah. Well, that was my first World Championships, 2001. Yeah. I didn't qualify before that. And I was 15, something like that then. 2001. And that was, if I remember rightly, it was the last time it was a GB team. Because
yes, that's right.
We had a GB team, we had a Scotland team, and I think they weren't going to have it. So it went England and Scotland after that. So was that when your dad was appointed as the points manager? Was that for the World Championships or was that afterwards?
That was for the first one was Vienna. So I mean, 2001,
wasn't it?
Yeah. That's when he was appointed there. But a bit like yourself, it took me nearly 4 years to qualify.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually go until 5 years. I didn't go to 2006 was my first World Championships, and that was in Spain.
Yeah. Was it Benidorm, wasn't it?
Benidorm, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first experience of a GB team or a national team as such, with mixed fighters. We've always had an England team within the BCKA that fought at the Irish Open. Yeah. So that was the original BCKA team, was to fight there. That was so I'd fought the Irish Open previous.
Yeah.
But my first taste of that was 2006 in Benidorm.
In Benidorm, how did you do?
I think I got a bronze medal that year.
That's not bad, to be fair, if you're medaling in your first World Championship.
It was about minus 55 kilos or something.
Yeah.
Junior.
How old was you then?
12, 13, maybe just a teenager.
Yeah.
But that was the first taste of that. And then the following year was Karlsruhe. That was in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough World Championships, that.
It always is when you go to Germany, I think.
Yeah. That was my first taste of, I thought these guys are next level, because there was a really good Canadian team that year as well.
So pushing on them from 2006, how long did it take you before you won that first world title?
2010, so I was 17, and 4 years after that.
Was that frustrating, because going and not winning, especially if on your first one you've got a bronze medal and your expectations are sort of quite high then?
Yeah. So I think what happened there, I was top of the juniors, the top of the kids category in Benidorm.
Yeah.
And then moved on. In them days, it was 13 years up to 18, wasn't it?
I think it was
13. Yeah, it was a big, there wasn't cadets or anything then. It was, as soon as you were 30, when you were a teenager, you were then in
13 to 18.
13 to 18. And I grew quite a lot. So I ended up at plus 70. So I ended up a heavyweight junior as such. Yeah. So the lads were sort of 17, 18, big lads. And I was bottom of the pile for quite a few years, really, until you got to the top of the pile. It's kind of how it was then. So in 2010 was the first time I won the world title when I was 17 myself. So, it kind of goes hand in hand, I think. Oh, it was brilliant. Fantastic. I think the year previous, I got a bronze. That was in Dublin.
Yeah.
Dublin. I got a bronze the previous year. And that gave me a lot of confidence, because I got a bronze in heavyweights, juniors.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I'm not far off here. And I didn't lose by a lot. I lost by maybe a point or something against an American.
I think I was probably the same. In 2001 was my first World Championships, and I got battered. I think I'd beaten by 5 or 6 points or whatever against a lad from the Czech Republic. He was a good fighter. And then I think it was 2004 before I medalled then, and it was in the adults as I was 18, and I got a bronze medal, and that felt that felt good, and that gave me the confidence. Yeah.
Because you're not far away then, because I sort of come away, and I remember I had a conversation with my dad about it, and he said, you're a little bit more confidence and stand up there and make yourself accountable, and you'll be there. And I then went on that year, 2009, the year I got a bronze in Ireland. I went on to fight in the junior team. That was the first time I got asked to fight in the team. So it was a mix of sort of the Liverpool freestyle guys, Mushin Kai, myself, and that went on for years after that. That sort of mix of was BCKA and the Liverpool freestyle.
Was 2009? Was that a WKC or WKA?
That was a WKC. That was the first WKC.
Right, which will have been
that Ireland. Was Dublin.
Ireland,
Dublin.
Yeah.
It was the first split that. Yeah.
Well, one of the lads you train with, he's a good friend, Kev. I remember 2010, we were in Portugal, WKC, and I think yourselves, I sort of equate you to like NSKA, the way, or when we spoke to Lorraine at Senchi, you aren't very loud and brash, and you don't go and mix with everyone, but you're very quiet and you keep yourselves to yourselves, you do your business and you leave. And then when we were in Portugal, we needed another man for the teams. Me and Ian obviously know about yourselves, and so we put Kevin's name forward, and they were like, "Oh well, okay, but we've never, he's not really on the radar, a sort of thing." And then I think he went out. I think it was second, and he absolutely destroyed the lad. And I won't say it was, but a fighter, a very good, prominent fighter, turned around and went, "Oh my God, where has this lad been?" And I said, "He's always been there. It's just because he's, just because yourselves aren't very vocal and, popping between different clubs and chatting and whatever else, that you sort of go unnoticed."
Yeah, we that's always been our ethos, really. We let our fighting sort of do the talking. As a club, we're really humble in the way we do things. The gym doesn't promote that kind of thing. We're in-house, we train in-house.
Yeah.
We keep what we do to ourselves, and I think that just translates all the way through, really.
Yeah.
And in them days, that was pre-Facebook and stuff, so there was no videos about, there was no sort of PR in yourself. There was, you're kind of was a bit secret to what, say, LKA were doing, or Hurricane it is now, to what BCKA were doing, to what, Mushin Kai would have been doing, or NSKA, and it was good. There's that little bit of secrecy about it,
Yeah.
It was good.
I think when we spoke to Bev Sterzaka, she said the only way you knew how people got on was you had to buy the magazine, and you'd look in the magazine and say, "Oh, well, they've won that comp and they've won that comp, so I'll be looking for them next time we're at competitions and whatever else." There was no way to just go on YouTube or Facebook, and I think a lot of people of the younger generation look at that now and can't believe it, really.
Yeah, no, it's crazy now, really. It's all self PR, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I suppose it's great in a way that you can keep in touch with people like yourself. When I contacted you through Facebook, I could have never have done that in the early days.
No.
I'd have had to try and phone someone to get your number and sort of do it that way.
Yeah.
So it is good, but I suppose at the same time, anyone in the world can contact you at any time, and that notification is going to go off on your phone. And
yeah,
most people, no matter what
Definitely.
time it is, or not most people, but a lot of people, no matter what time it is, are gonna have a look.
Yeah, sure. It's yeah, it's changed. Definitely changed.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned the teams there. What's your thoughts on the teams? How do you, when you're going to World Championships, are you ever thinking about the teams?
Yeah, because some of my best experiences and my best performances have been in team events, either with BCKA or with,
Yeah,
a
I
national,
agree. Yeah,
a GB team. Because I feel, you're only as good as the pressure put on you. I think,
yeah,
when it comes to competing, unless you're under pressure, or unless you're tested under pressure, you'll never know
yeah,
how good you really are. And I always found I'm a riser, if that makes sense. If I'm put under pressure, I'll normally pull it out of the bag. I don't know why that is. Just,
yeah,
normally if I attempt to a big event, the Irish Open, the World Championships, normally I can pull it out of the bag, and that's down to
yeah,
pressure. And I think I learned that pressure through team events.
yeah,
Learned to deal with that from a young age.
yeah.
Um,
I think I'd probably say the same. I have performed better on team events. I think I sort of thrive on the pressure, maybe, or maybe it's the show because there's a lot of
yeah,
people watching, and I don't know.
yeah,
I think in 2015 we were in Florida, and I beat a guy in the semi-finals by 2 or 3 points, and then I fought him in the teams, and I just went way beyond that. And I think it was just because you're on the stage and everyone's there, and you can't even hear the referee say stop. There's that much noise, and
yeah,
I personally, when I'm going to World Championships, if I don't get asked for the teams, then it's a big disappointment.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I loved every minute of those team events. And like I say, I gained some of my first real confidence in, especially points fighting through team events, not necessarily individual.
Yeah,
So yeah, I loved every minute. And within the BCKA, we do it's now a championship, but we used to do like an inter club, and that would be all the different areas around the country would put a team together and you'd fight. So it'd be like our town, Corby versus Peterborough versus Lincolnshire
yeah,
versus, and some of them team events were the most brutal team events I've ever been involved in.
yeah,
You know, because interclubs they're not as many rules really as the national championships,
yeah,
and things get let go a little bit, and people aren't scoring certain stuff, and tensions gets high, and
yeah.
it was brilliant. I'd say I learned a lot from team events, and that grounded me really as a martial artist. I think that pressure to win.
Do you still fight on your own team events?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, your own interclubs, sorry.
Yeah. I've still fought up until I didn't fight last year because I was too busy running around sorting everything out. But
Yeah,
yeah, I've only missed one in my 24 years of competing.
yeah,
I think it's important for the youngsters you teach that have never been to big competitions to see their top guys out. We've always made that a
yeah,
big thing. Yeah, make sure it's important. It's as important as the big ones, in it.
yeah. Okay, so we can have a little talk about the Irish Open, because I know
Yeah,
you've had quite a bit of success at the Irish Open as well.
yeah.
What year did you first go across there?
1999 was my
Yeah,
first. So the BCK fight team was actually formed for the Irish Open.
yeah,
So going back years ago, there was a martial arts shop in Birmingham called BCS,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Roy Baker had kind of sent out invites, and Bernard had asked my dad, who ran the shop, do you fancy sending a team over to Ireland? And this was in about 1995.
yeah,
And Dad said, yeah, why not? So he rounded up his guys at the time,
yeah,
flew over to Ireland. Roy Baker picked them up from the airport at the time. And they went there, I think it was maybe a couple hundred fighters at that time. So we're very small.
yeah,
They've been going there since the start. So I've got quite a good history and connection with that tournament.
yeah,
And I first went in 99, and then I went pretty much every year there on since. And gathered some momentum with it, and
yeah,
just really enjoyed it. I just found it's a good time of year as well. March is straight after Christmas. You've got sort of 8 weeks,
yeah,
and you can hit the ground running, do a couple of tune-up tournaments, and then you're in. Just seem to peak right on time for it. Really, it's always
yeah,
felt good.
yeah. When we spoke to Bev, she said that was one of that was the tournament that they trained for. They train for that, and they train for World Championships, and they train for it as it was a World Championships.
Yeah, same for us really. We'd do sort of 2 big training camps in a year, so it'd be from Christmas through to the Irish Open, a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so off, not off completely, but off of competing, and then a bit through the summer, and then bang on it again for the Worlds at the end of the year.
Yeah,
that was always our the way we done it as
how
well.
did you get on then,
Similar.
early on, 1999?
I think I was first round against some American wonder kid, to be honest. Whipped me. But you learn, you grow, you come back.
Was it an eye opener
that? Yeah, it was eye opener. Just the sheer amount of people was the eye opener.
Yeah.
For me, because I hadn't been to a World Championships by that point either.
Okay.
So I was still a few years off of going to a World. So it was my first taste of international competition, really.
Yeah.
I think I was maybe a green sash or something. And went in, and it was it was an eye opener. Yeah. First time I'd seen a blitz and a cannon kick. So yeah, it was definitely. See these Irish lads with their leg up in the air. You think, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
So
was the Irish Open one of the tournaments that you learned from, where you could implement stuff into your teaching then?
Yeah, definitely. The change of technique. I mean, not long after us starting to go to the Irish Open, and we're thinking this is different. This kind of fighting is different, especially the European style. We had to go and create new focus mitt routines, and it wasn't. It started to transition from being a traditional style into being a sport style, which led us on to the BCKA really, and what it is today as a fighting team.
Yeah.
And we had to learn a lot quickly as well.
Okay, so we've spoke about points fighting and whatever, but I know you're very good at your continuous fighting as well. How did that come along? Was it just you've gone to a tournament and they had a light continuous section and you jumped in and tried it?
Yeah, basically, I first done a light continuous fight in 2000 and I think it was 2008, and it was on a show, so it wasn't a tournament based thing. It was so we used to do, I wouldn't call it light continuous. We used to do continuous fighting on fight nights. So like against other teams, it'd be more like Clash of the Titans style, where it's almost full contact. Normally be us versus Chris Bowie's team, or it'd be us versus a local karate team, or whoever it would be. It would just kind of be a dust up, really, not stop and start, and just see may the best man win type thing. So I first done one of them on an undercard of so it was my dad's team fighting Chris Bowie's team, and I had a sort of an exhibition bout, if you want to call it that, on the undercard. And I quite enjoyed it, really. We've always done that kind of sparring in the club, just didn't really compete in continuous at that point as a team.
I think that's how a lot of people started. I can remember when I was a kid and we used to train. We trained in a church hall, and we didn't have any mats, so we just trained on the floor, no shoes. I think it was sort of like you regulate your own points, but as you're sort of getting more experienced, you're not regulating your points, you just keep going. And that's how we sort of just
of course
transitioned into it, or a lot of our fighters transitioned into it. I've never really done it. I've always stuck to the points fighting. Okay, so
as I kind of got older, I then started training with a few training partners, Kev included in that, who we mentioned earlier. And they were like fit lads that had boxing ability, could run, could sort of do everything as such. And there was another lad, Lee Bayliss at the time. He was a full contact champion, WACO British and European full contact champion. So I sort of mucked in, started training with them, and that's where sort of my continuous gained momentum, really. Because I was sparring and training with them men all day in, day out. I just kind of rolled into it, and it become natural to me, really. It's fighting's obviously been in my blood, that's a given, but it become natural for me. That just progressed into a style that I was comfortable with.
So what year was that you started competing in continuous fighting?
So 2010 was my first tournament.
Okay.
And that was the World Championships, believe it or not.
Well, that was the first time I'd done continuous as well.
Yeah.
It was
and
actually
won it.
KC's,
Yeah, I won it.
Yeah.
So I just chucked myself in. I was going there for the points, chucked myself in for that, and I won it. So that kind of rolled on from there.
Yeah, I think it was 2009 in Ireland, the first WKC, and we'd gone and turned up, and I'd qualified to fight in the points. When I got there, we only had one fighter in the continuous, and I think it was Peter Lewis said, "Why don't you do the continuous as well?" And obviously, I'd never done it. I'd trained in the gym with the others, and I'd never done it. And I ended up with a bronze medal. It was
Nice.
It was Ken Forrest who beat me in the semi-final.
Yeah, I remember watching that fight.
Yeah,
I remember watching that fight.
But I found it strange. I'd go in and I'd throw a couple of shots and I'd be first in, and then I'd stop because I wasn't used to it. Yeah. And then Ken would just kick me down and whatever else. But yeah, I suppose it was a good experience. It's good to do. I'd have no problem doing it in a tournament now. It's just something I've never. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's one of them, and that kind of progressed on for me into being more my thing as of 2010. I pushed on with the continuous. I think I've seen points fighting changing. If I'm going to be honest, I've seen points fighting changing, and what I perceived and seen as points fighting, it was evolving, and it was evolving very quickly. Yeah. Especially at tournaments like the Irish Open, and I always found I could compete at the Irish Open no problem, and I was within a point of the top guys. I'd get through 2 or 3 fights, and I'd lose by a point to a Hungarian or by a point to an Italian guy that went on to win it. Yeah. And I just always thought I had more in me than that, and I had more techniques, and I could express myself more. And that's where I found doing continuous, which in them days was on the same day as the point, so you had to mat hop. Yeah. I found I could just do more as a martial artist. I could throw more, do more, and use my tools and train harder and show it in continuous than what I could in points.
Would you say that's where you've had your most success now in the continuous fight?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you prefer doing that?
Yeah, without a doubt. Continuous for me is definitely my predominant discipline. Because I think now, especially the Wacko style continuous, it's almost like the old points. It's in, out, strong. It's very similar to the old style of points fighting with the clicker system and stuff. And it favors the clean fighters, I think, in continuous. The guys that have got a good points background that then can mix it and are fit. I think that Wacko system definitely favors people like myself. I've always got on with it. Some people don't like it, but I've always got on with it.
Yeah, I've spoke to Andy Gray, who we spoke about before the podcast. He had a bit of an issue with it as well. He just preferred to not be looking and seeing what the points were. He'd go and do his job, and if he felt at the end he'd done it, then and there was no sort of. But I can see people's argument. You know where you are, you know where you stand. If I suppose there's no contentious issues really, and no contentious decisions. It's just a clicker system.
Yeah, like you say, when I watch it, I definitely think it favors the cleaner, sharper point style guys. Yeah, who can get in, get out, and move around. And I always thought whenever I've seen Ian Hollett fighting at the Irish Open, it's very similar to that. Yeah. He's in, out, sharp, good technique. It suits that kind of fighting, definitely. 100%. I think it's a good thing for myself. It suits me, but it doesn't suit everyone. Yeah.
I suppose like a full contact style fighter, it wouldn't really suit, would it?
No, definitely not. No. And it also suits people that can clinch well. I found whenever I'm competing, if I attack quickly and then clinch, then move, you've scored and they can't get anything off really. Yeah. That's definitely worked for me over the years at that level. And then holding it a draw as well. You see a lot of the European lads, they will hold it a draw and then have a flurry at the end, and you think, I've just lost that fight and I don't feel like I've done anything. Yeah. They've a lot of the Europeans will hold it a draw and then a flurry and then off. And you've only got 5 seconds to make it up and you ain't got time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is frustrating. But you've got to be alive to it as a tactician as well, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's the aim of the game, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose there is a tactical aspect to it. I think there's a tactical aspect to all types of martial arts, really, but I can see what you're saying with that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I feel that, like you say, go back to the continuous, definitely my favourite discipline. Always found it allows me to express what I do and myself as a martial artist.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
also, I find it easier to teach, definitely.
Yeah.
For the guy coming in off the street that wants to learn kickboxing, if I show him a jab, cross, round kick, that's what he perceives as kickboxing.
Yeah.
Whereas if he come in, I'm showing him a back fist, and he's got to move through the
stop
air
after
and
it, yeah.
and stop, and he's got to have a wide stance and hands down low. You're thinking, what's this?
Do you think that the point system favours sort of the Americans and Canadians better in the aspect that they're used to sort of sports like American football, where it's sort of play by play, and you'll have a 5-second burst and then you'll stop, and then the next play will be a 5-second burst and stop, and that's why I wouldn't say they're more successful, but I think the sport's more prominent over there than it is here.
Yeah, I think the karate scene is bigger over there for sure.
Massive, yeah.
Karate over there is, it's on every corner of every street. I think they've got dojos. It's kind of been, impressioned into their society as such. Karate.
Yeah.
That helps, and also, like you say, the start stop, the athleticism, the fast twitch muscle fibers maybe have something to play with it. They find it easier.
Yeah.
From a start point when they first walk in. But yeah, I'm not really 100% sure, but it might do.
Yeah. Okay, so if we just go back Irish Open, what year was your first win?
2013 was the first time I won.
2013 as a continuous fighter.
Continuous, men's.
Okay, can you remember much of the tournament?
Yeah, it sticks vividly in my head. To be honest with you, I didn't think I'd be winning something like the Irish Open till I was about 25, 26. I thought I was years off. The guys at the time were really good continuous practitioners. There was some of Rudy's guys that were in there at middleweight. There was a guy called Levant from Austria, and he was a WACA world champion. And them guys their boxing was good, their kicking was good, their timing was good. They were fit as a fiddle. As a 19-year-old, you're thinking, geez, these have got a bit more on me. But as my old man always said to me, fight by fight, take it as it comes. And I did just that. And, when you've got 78 names on your division, you've got time between fights as well. Yeah. So you could recover, give it all and recover, give it all, recover. And I just went fight by fight. I fought an Irish guy first, and then a Polish lad, a couple of Czechs maybe. And then my semi-final was against another Irish lad. And then the final was against Levant, who was a WACA world champion. And he looked really good in his previous fights. He was cruising. Didn't really look like he was breaking a sweat compared to myself. I was pushing every fight, good old Brit as we do, giving it everything. I remember Joe, Tierney, and everyone being at the side screaming, and you get him through these fights one by one. And I stood on the mat, and I didn't doubt myself, but I had a thing in my head thinking, I don't know if this is my day kind of thing. And as soon as I stood on, I looked across and I thought, you know what? You're just another bloke. It's not rocket science. You're just another man. And then I sort of filled myself with confidence from that point. And in my head, I knew this guy was good. And I thought, I'm just going to go for you. Give you everything I've got for 2 rounds. And went through the first round, paced myself for maybe 45, 50 seconds. And then I pushed on strong. I felt really, really good. And I come in and we were drawing. So we had 2 judges at a draw, and 1 guy just ahead I think 2 judges at a draw and 1 guy just ahead on him. So overall it was a split draw. And I pushed on and I thought, I'm going to go for you here. My old man said to me, 2 minutes till gold. 2 minutes till gold. Give him everything you've got. And I did. I stepped in and I didn't really back up. I didn't give any any ground on the mat. I thought, I'm going to keep pushing you back, and I got to him, and I was ahead by a good, I think, 3 or 4 points come the last 20 seconds, and I remember being the tightest I've ever felt. I stood back and lifted my leg up, and just cannon kicked the whole way home. I think move, leg up, move, leg up, pushing it up to keep him off basically, and and then the buzzer went, and that was it. And it was their first Irish Open. But I honestly didn't think that would ever happen for a long, long time. And the tactics were right.
Yeah.
I remember it's coming back to me a bit more now, but I remember the conversation was that this guy would hold it at a draw. He would hold it close, and then he'd just pull away from you at the end of each round. So he'd be somewhere near close, and he'd sort of not drop you to his level, but make you relax, make you start, relaxing into the fight, so he can start picking you off. And then he'd just flurry away at the end, and he'd be 2 or 3 up, and you think, where's that round gone? So I remember that conversation. This was before the fight, and he said to me, my old man said, he's cruising, and then he's picking you off. So as long as you match him the whole way through, you'll be fine because you're stronger.
Yeah.
And it worked. When he picked up, I picked up, and that was the way to do it, really.
As you're going through the rounds, you said the 78, 80 people, whatever there is in it. As you're going through the rounds, you're thinking, "Oh God, I'm getting closer here," or are you just, like you say, taking it fight by fight and not even taking any notice?
From a young age, we were always told not to look at the draw sheet.
Yeah.
So it was like, don't look at the draw sheet, and that kind of stuck with me. And I didn't really that day. I didn't look at the draw sheet, just one at a time. Just pick, especially at a big competition like that. I'd always say, I say to my youngsters, say to everyone, one fight at a time. Because you don't know if that guy that you're worrying about somewhere down the other end of the sheet and going to be out next round anyway.
Yeah.
There's no point worrying about him. Just take the fight in front of you. That's how it's always been relayed to me, and it's always worked out well for me. That I don't look at the sheet and I just go with it.
Okay, so up until the present day now, how many Irish Open titles have you got?
3 different weights.
3 at 3 different weights. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially with the different weights.
Yeah, 74, 79 and 84.
Yeah.
So
what would you say was your best tournament at the Irish Open? Best performance?
My most dominant would have been 2016.
Yeah.
I felt really strong at that. I think I won my final by stoppage, and I stopped my semi-final opponent as well. So the semi-final and the final, I stopped them both. So that was definitely the best I've felt.
Yeah,
100%.
When you go into the early Irish Opens, is there anyone you're looking for to watch? Obviously, I know as you're growing up, you're watching your dad and Chris Bowie and whoever else. Yeah. Is there anyone else that you're looking at?
The biggest influence for me would have been Raymond Daniels, aside of my training partners and my dad.
Yeah.
Raymond Daniels is the one guy that I've seen that had it all, in terms of he was flamboyant, could kick, could punch, could move, and he was devastating with it.
Yeah.
If he hit you, he hit you.
Yeah.
And you knew about it. Some of the modern style points lads, although they're fantastic and they're fast and they tactically they're amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't watch their technique and think that, wow, that's devastating. That's taken me out. You know? And Daniels definitely had that about him. Probably still even to this day, really, but especially from about 2003 till maybe 2010, that 7-year period, he hit you, you stayed hit.
Yeah.
And that was jumping kicks, that was back fists, reverse punches, that was very
flamboyant, wasn't it?
It was, and it was strong.
Sort of the era where it was Michael Page versus Raymond Daniels, wasn't it? Sort of the UK versus America type of thing.
Definitely.
Two similar fighters who, again, I know from experience from fighting Michael, if you knew about it.
Yeah, 100%. And there was a little era where people were coming through with, the speed, the athleticism, but they were also pretty devastating with it.
Yeah.
And Raymond Daniels was definitely that guy for me when the Irish Open was at the basketball arena.
Yeah.
It was.
I
watched him there. I think
City West. Yeah.
He might have been. I might be wrong, but it was maybe Team Straight Up he was fighting for at that point. Yeah. And I remember seeing him on the Grand Championship night, and he was something else. He was fast and he was strong with it. Another one for me would have been Ross Levine. When I seen Ross Levine fight,
Yeah.
he was another one of them where, he was quick and he was strong.
Ross Levine's always one that I've missed. Sort of when going to tournaments or world championships, if I went one year, he never went, and maybe the next year I couldn't make it, and he went and whatever else, and he was one of the ones I'd always wanted to fight. Him and Tom Roberts, from Canada, and I've always missed him. There was one year, in fact, it was a WKC 2010 Portugal. We were both there, and I thought, right, okay, this is my chance. And he was in the one half of the draw, and I was in the other half. And I just won my semi-final, through to the final, and he was fighting Brendan Mitty in the other semi-final. Brendan beat him, but it was a tough fight. So again, I missed out on it. But yeah, they were probably are probably the two that I'd like to, the heavyweight to it, I would like to maybe like to fight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was. I'd say Raymond Daniels, Ross Levine, were two of the guys that when I went to the Irish Open or when I went to the Wells and seen them, I thought, yeah, they're very good. Michael Page as well. He was different. He was different to the rest. He was better than most people out there, and you could
definitely
see that.
Yeah. So when you're watching them, are you just looking at the spectacle and the fight, or are you taking stuff from that and trying your double defensive side kicks in the gym and your 520 kicks or whatever?
Yeah, you've seen me fight. I'm not too flamboyant. I'm pretty good at basics and stuck to it, and it's kind of done me well. Yeah. So I would take things from it, but I'd also think what's practical and what's not.
Yeah, I think there's certain time. I think for certainly if I was fighting, there's certain times you can do that. Maybe if you're out of Raymond Daniels or a Michael Page, then you can do it in the first 10 seconds and get away with it. But if someone like me is trying something like that in the first 10 seconds and you get a decent punch to the head, you know.
I think with the flamboyant stuff, I think definitely that has started to come to an end in the last 5 years. You don't see as much of it now.
No.
From the Americans, even the younger Americans, when they come over here to the Irish Open or they come over Europe to fight, it's so tactical now, and you're only an arm to the body away from getting scored against. So they're less they're not as likely to do that kind of stuff now. You don't see it as much, definitely. Another influence for me was in Karlsruhe, Germany.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, still don't know his name to this day, but there was a continuous fighter. He was a Russian lad. And he was one of the best continuous fighters I've ever seen. He was, jab, cross, round kick, back kick, spinning on a penny in seconds and moving off, and the fitness. And he won the world title that year. He would have been a middleweight, about 74 kilos or something, 79 kilos, and he won the continuous that year. I remember watching him. He was Russian, and I thought, that's how you fight continuous. That was something else. It was fast hands, fast feet, back kicks, axe kicks, and it was all solid. And I remember watching that and thinking, I never got his name, but I never seen him again either.
No, I seen a video a few years ago of a few Russian fighters, and the dedication that they put in was unbelievable. I know everyone's dedicated. If you're a top elite fighter and you train all the time, you're dedicated. But these guys were getting on, a slow train across Russia for 5 or 6 days just to get to a nationals.
It's crazy.
Yeah, training on the train, and I suppose it's something that you don't see all the time, especially when you go to world championships and everything's very pristine, and you come on the plane and on the coach and you've all got your tracksuits on. You don't realise that the people like the Russians who have to do that, and sleep on trains for days on end just to get to nationals. Yeah,
it's crazy. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so we're coming up to what year did we talk about world championships until? Because I know WKC and WKKC split about, I don't know what, to 2012 or something like that, maybe.
13. It was 13. Italy was
the last one.
Was the last. one when it was together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So where did you go from there? Did you stay original WKC?
Yes, they did. So that was sort of the club's decision to stay with it.
Yeah.
From that point, we more pushed the youngsters into it. That was probably the day it stopped becoming as much about me as an individual and more about, pushing the other guys through and focusing more on them really than what it was me. Obviously, I continued to compete.
Yeah.
But my main focus would have been the Irish Open really from that point.
Yeah.
As in my own head as my challenge. We then pushed on with the WKC, took guys over there to compete as towards the back end of the year.
Yeah.
And they enjoyed it. So yeah.
Is that where you still are now?
We didn't do a World Championships last year.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, I think the whole of the martial arts world's kind of in limbo, especially in the UK, when it comes to World Championships. I think the top 5 fighters from any of them are as good as each other.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's a strength in depth thing when it comes to the worlds. Some World Championships have got to be a bit more in depth, but the top 5 from any of them will compete against anyone really.
Yeah.
I've always stood by that.
I know you're not one to sort of blow your own trumpet out, but where would you put yourself on the UK scene? Obviously, I know there's different fighters from all over the UK, different associations and whatever. Where would you put yourself?
In a points fighting scenario or continuous scenario?
I think both, because I know you say you're better at the continuous, but I know I remember me and you fought at WKC Nationals in the open it was the open weight, wasn't it?
The open weight,
or whatever else it was, yeah. Which you won. You won the open weight there. So personally, I think you're a brilliant fighter at both of them. So where would you put yourself on the UK scene?
At the moment, I think I've been inactive maybe for around, well, most of us have for this year, or definitely have. But previous to that, probably last time I fought would have been February time last year. So I've been inactive. But from a points fighting perspective, I'd put myself definitely top 10. I wouldn't say I'm the best. I think there's some guys better at modern day point fighting than me. But I put myself top 10. But when it comes to continuous at middleweight, I don't think there's anyone won as much as me, continuous middleweight, for the last 10 years. I think I'll be up there as, definitely one of the best continuous fighters at middleweight in the UK.
Yeah.
Points fighting, I'd have a go at anyone. That's my mentality.
Absolutely, yeah.
And when it comes to like the open weight stuff and that, I'm the kind of guy who'll turn up on the day and I'll have a go. And normally see where it takes me. It normally takes me somewhere near.
Yeah.
And I'll go out on my shield type thing. But definitely when it comes to continuous fighting, I think middleweight wise, there's not a lot of lads that have won internationally or domestically as much as what I have over the years, or being as consistent.
So if we just speak about your dad for a minute, when you're growing up and he's teaching the classes and you're going to tournaments, is there any more pressure on you than anyone else, do you think?
I think the pressure, you feel it, you kind of put it on yourself in the end.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily put on by my dad, or it's not because I'm my dad's son or anything like that. Because anyone that knows you put the work in, and the reason you are where you are is because you've done it. So I find you end up putting the pressure on yourself when you've won titles, or you've say if you've gone somewhere like the Irish Open and won.
Yeah.
You're then in your own head going back to compete again, not just to take part, but to win. So that's where I think you put your pressure on yourself. And being my dad's son, obviously there is a certain amount of pressure.
Yeah.
But he's never put that on me. He's never put that on any of us, really.
I think with sort of like martial arts, with competing, it's not as if like your dad's the referee. So kids who are coming through, the parents are really good, like yourself, or maybe Marcus Lewis, who's Alfie's son. I don't think there is, and anyone can say that you've had any favouritism or anything like that, because your achievements speak for themselves, really.
Yeah, and like say the names you've mentioned, like Marcus, they've won across different tournaments, different associations, different referees.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that those guys, even with their parents, have put in the work, so they deserve it, definitely. And like myself included in that, really.
Yeah.
My dad, like I say, my dad never put pressure on me to even train to a certain degree. He'd want me to train, but he also understood if you push me too hard, I will,
Yeah.
push back. And you don't want it as a 10-year-old. That's not the way to do it. And eventually, if you're good at something, you'll grow to love it. And I definitely think that's what happened there. My dad obviously was out every night teaching, training, and eventually you either go along with it or you get left behind, don't you?
Yeah. Well, when we spoke to Lorraine, I asked her about if she treated her lads differently from everyone else in the class, and she said, yeah, she did. Do you feel like you got treated differently? You had maybe he was more hard on you?
I wouldn't say so. No.
No.
I would say my dad's very much the way he teaches is the way he teaches, and we're all just part of the cog, really, all part of the wheel.
Yeah.
And he pushes the whole wheel round. He's always been very good at that, and that's why I suppose that's why we've always had a big team as well.
Yeah.
He'll make everyone feel like they're part of it. He'll make everyone feel like they're special. Everyone feel like they can go for it. Everyone feel like they can compete. And I was just part of that wheel at the time. And there's a lot of others that were part of that wheel.
Yeah.
And he pushed us all the same. Really. He didn't push me any more than anyone else. No.
He's growing his martial arts club into a business now, and a very, very successful one. Where are you presently in sort of the business? Do you have your own club, or do you sort of just go around and manage a few clubs, or what?
So basically, obviously, he sits as the chief instructor, and then we've got senior instructors under that in areas.
Yeah.
And so I run an area within the association, and also I'm the head coach on the fighting side as well.
Yeah.
Along with another lad. So there's two of us that are the fighting team coaches, and then I run an area. And there's four of us that run areas in the association, so different counties as such. And,
is there any aspirations to branch out more, maybe with more clubs, more areas?
Yeah, I mean, with the coronavirus, it's obviously hit us harder than ever.
Yeah.
So the plan is to obviously grow the association, more clubs, more competitions, more people at competitions. But like I say, this year's been a test for us all, especially in the martial arts world.
Yeah.
So we have slowed up a bit, but hopefully moving forward, we can grow it, get a little bit bigger, and push on.
Can I just ask you how you run your grading system now? Would you still go with the sashes, or do you go with belts now?
We run both. So we have Kung Fu, which is sashes, and we have kickboxing, which is belts.
Which is belts, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and is that something that you use with both grades, or do you do the kickboxing and your dad would do the Kung Fu side?
So I would do the Kung Fu side up until senior gradings. So I'd be able to take Kung Fu grades in my club up till they went for their seniors, and then that's done in front of a panel.
Yeah.
Of guys that from all different areas that would then decide whether you passed or failed, and that's from purple, brown, and black. That's your last three grades would be classed as senior grades.
Yeah.
And that would be done by a panel. So you could train in your club up till senior level, and then once you want to go senior level, you then have to travel to the headquarters, which is in Corby.
Yeah.
And you do your grading there. So no matter where you're from across the country, you'd have to come
down.
Yeah, and do it there. That's my chance for my dad to see sort of everyone, and everyone get to know him and some of the other instructors. How
often does he get round all the clubs? Obviously at the moment we can't, but
not at the moment. But he normally leaves it to his senior instructors. Really, he'll get round the ones he can.
Yeah.
But there's the last count there was around 60 odds, so it's hard. He'd have to do one a week for over a year. But he sort of leaves it to his area guys, that he leaves them to run it, and they report into him as such.
Yeah.
And then they come to him for gradings and then tournaments and squad sessions, and so like the area lads will send their guys that think they can make the fighting team. They get sent to the squads, and then we then do like an open squad session once a year where you can try try out from your club that's not part of the squad as such. You'd send them guys up, and they'd try out, see what it's all about, do a bit of running, test their fitness, see what their sparring's like, and then we'd then say, do you want to give it a go? And and then once you're in the squad, that's your chance to go and fight internationally and nationally.
Do you just have a squad training then, do you?
Yeah, once a month. Pre-coronavirus, obviously, we'd do once a month. And then before major comps, it's twice a month. So on the run up to the Irish Open, it'd be twice a month. Run up to the Worlds, twice a month. And then we train 8 weeks before a major comp. They'll go into like a camp where they'd have to train. Well, normally train morning and night, so train twice a day, 6 days a week. So it's quite intense for the guys that are going for it. Okay,
so if we go back to fighting now, well, what are your goals now, fighting wise?
I definitely want to fight a few more times. I've slowed down recently. I feel not that I've accomplished it all, but I'm feeling like I want to more give back to the other guys more so than focus on myself. Because going to a tournament, if you're fighting, it's a selfish place to be. And I have had tournaments where I'm just thinking about myself. I'm not bothered about the guys that I'm almost an empty head coaching, and I don't want to be that guy. So I often it's hard to juggle that as well. So I kind of want to give the guys 100% of my time, and try and give them the rewards I've had out of martial arts. Yeah. And sometimes I find if I can just focus on coaching at a tournament, I'll be a better coach. Yeah. And definitely found that. Went to the Irish Open this year, and we had 2 lads win advanced titles. So they were fantastic, and I sort of felt I was the whole way with them, coaching them. Yeah. My dad couldn't get over because he was due his kidney transplant, so he couldn't fly or anything like. Yeah. He was a few weeks off getting that, so it was just me that went over the team. Yeah. So I was kind of responsible for it all.
Responsible for everyone, yeah.
Yeah. So not just my dad wasn't there to sort of lean on, and the other coaches couldn't make it either. So it was just sort of myself and my other coach Richie, and we had to sort of do it all. So I think for me, I see moving forward as more coaching and giving back to the guys. Really, I definitely will fight again. I'll just pick my battles now. I'm not going to be competing 12, 15 times a year. Yeah, I think that stage of my fighting's over.
Would you go to a Waka World Championships? What you're saying that's the way you favour fighting?
I don't know really. I've beat Waka World Champions, and I definitely, it's something that probably as a martial artist I should do. But
yeah, it's something that I would like to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen for me now as such. I think the Irish Open ticks that box for me. Yeah. From a competitive standpoint. Oh, not from a title standpoint, but from a competitive standpoint, the Irish Open has always ticked that box. And I always feel I can get the guys that I want to fight there. From in the continuous side of things. But
with that, do you think you've missed anyone on the circuit who you would have liked to have fought?
I can't really say there's anyone that I lust to fight as such. Like I say, I take it one fight at a time. Whoever's in front of me, I'll rise to you and try and beat you. I don't get motivated by individuals. Never have. Yeah. Thought, I want him. That's never been a motivation of mine. It's always been, for me, the title, the enjoying fighting, enjoying the training. I'm the kind of weirdo that loves the training camp. I love the training up to it. I love the feeling of, being depleted, training hard, feeling the best you felt, fit, strong, punishing yourself and then getting there. And like I say, one fight at a time, one guy at a time. Yeah. No one out there really that I've always thought I'd have a go at, but no. It's never really motivated me, individuals. I've always wanted the title.
Good stuff. Well, I think we've sort of come to the end there, Al. We've covered everything really from where you started, your Irish Opens and your World Championships, and obviously the way you're handling the business now is great. You're doing, you're massive. You're doing really well. And I just want to thank you for coming on. People who come on don't have to do it. but what you
Yeah, no
do.
problems.
And
It's been a pleasure.
thank you very much, mate.